Space, the final frontier. These are the voyages of a show that I wanted to make about Starfleet Command, but realized, like about 10 minutes ago, that Starfleet Command does not actually work on Windows 10. So instead of having crisp, clean video footage of the game, enjoy the footage I made back in 2013 when I still made 480p video for the games that I try to cover on a different channel in a different language. Now, technically, that was after I actually got a new hard drive, so I could have made a 720p video, but I started making those in 2014 because of reasons. Now it's coming back to bite me in the ass. And oh boy, was that a good video. Like, that was the start of a whole month of Star Trek related videos. I even sang the Star Trek theme because I did not want to get a copyright strike. YouTube was being a total dick to us back then. It still is. Some things never change. On then to Starfleet Command. My first contact with this game was on one of the CDs that I showcased for you a couple of weeks ago, and that turns out hour-long video where the autofocus was desperately trying to actually capture what I was showing you because I turned down like quarter of the way through the video and I forgot that when it's pointed down, the FZ2000 cannot autofocus for shit. I mean, do not point a Panasonic Lumix FZ2000 or 2500 down and expect it to autofocus. It just cannot. But in that show, I did show you one of the CDs that contained a demo of Starfleet Command 2. And that was one of those demos that I played quite a lot because it offered you a lot of content, and most importantly, you had no limit on playing that content. And the content was you playing a tutorial mission and you playing a skirmish mode mission. Skirmish mode meaning that you could basically do whatever you wanted, and whatever you wanted meant unlimited playtime with a game that is possibly one of the greatest Star Trek games ever made. One of the greatest spaceship combat, tactical combat, I should underline this, it's not a dogfighting game, it's not first person, best spaceship tactical combat games ever made. Now, when you take into account that I'm a big fan of ship combat games like Sea Dogs, more Sea Dogs, bunch of other Sea Dogs, seeing that recipe, that idea for a video game, actually this came out before Sea Dogs, but seeing that translated into a game about starships, how should I put this? I know I use the term blew my mind so often that it becomes meaningless, so I'm gonna try and rephrase it. It eviscerated my cerebral cortex to the point where it's never actually fully recovered. And that's not because the concept itself was like incredibly advanced. I mean, it's ship combat with spaceships, okay. But the way they made it, dear God. It's because of this game that I think EVE Online's combat never really did it for me. It's just kind of bland. It's like World of Warcraft in space. They added the ability to actually steer the ship, you know, like not an MMO character recently. So it's nowhere near, because this was positional combat. Like, this was real tactical combat where it sort of mattered that you were not standing still, that you were moving. It mattered where you were facing. It mattered what you were doing, how you were doing it, what you were moving like. And a big part of that was the directional shields. You had 6 of them. The only game to ever get close to the depth that this game had was Star Trek Online. And even that had a watered-down version of this combat system with only 4 shields. And honestly, from the part that I played of Star Trek Online, and I did play quite a bit. I got my, I think I was at the Galaxy class level of ship. It was the 3rd or 4th tier back then when I played it. I think they've gone way beyond it since then. Like, I was this close to getting a Sovereign class, you know, the one from Star Trek, and well, yeah, it was Nemesis and then First Contact. But anyway, back to Star Trek Command. What made this combat system fantastic was both the positional aspect of it, that you had to move around, you had to maneuver around your enemy, your target, to be able to exploit weaknesses, and the fact that it gave you a large amount of tools to actually do this, to achieve your goal, that of defeating the enemy. You didn't just have a gun, a phaser, a torpedo, you had a bunch of them with different firing arcs. You had different types of torpedoes, you had mines, you had teleporters, you had deflector dishes, you had probes that you could use in informational warfare. You could spawn a probe that would take on the appearance on radar, on sensors of your ship to act as a decoy for the enemy. Heck, because you had access not just to the Federation vessels, you had Klingon, you had Romulan, you had I think Andorian, but you had a bunch of them. I think even Gorn, the big lizards. Each of them wasn't just a reskin of Federation technology vessels. No, they all had their own technology from the show. So Romulans and Klingon, they had cloaking that you could use. And on top of even that, you had an environment that actually did something. It wasn't empty space you were fighting in. You were fighting in nebulae. I think it's the plural for nebula, or it's nebuluses. And those would have impacts depending on what their composition was. They would impact your shield strength, or they would impact your ability to use certain weapons or certain sensors. You had asteroid belts with lots of small asteroids around that would just tear a hole through your ship if you went too fast. You had black holes that would just swallow you up if you weren't careful. And this was all in real time. This wasn't your turn-based buffet, even though it was based on a tabletop game that was turn-based. This was real time. You had to think and act in real time. You had access to a bunch of maneuvers that would sort of emphasize the fact that sometimes you would be required to do split action decisions. You had an emergency turn, for example. If you used it, Mr. Spock would get upset. That's what I remember the tutorial saying in the second game. But it allowed you to turn 180 degrees, like to instantly face an enemy with your strongest shield if they just torpedoed your back end to, well, no end. And if you did that, well, you had your strongest shield, you could reinforce it, you could divert all energy to shields, Commander. Or divert energy to weapons, Commander. Or to shuttles, Commander. Yeah, you could replicate shuttles and send them out to fight. They were not all that great, but you could equip them with different things. You could even make them self-destruct, like kamikazes. But the moment you turned around, like the emergency handbrake thing, there was a chance that everything would just stop working. Because you just put enough strain on this ship to tear it apart. I don't think I can rightfully put into words how much fun I had with this combat system, with the demo of the second game alone. And I played the first one as well when I did that show, but again, I mostly stuck to the skirmish mode. It does have a campaign. There's a campaign where you will progress through various missions, and depending on how you finish the missions, you will gain prestige, and based on that prestige, you'll be able to buy new ships. When I say buy, I mean the Federation were communists, so it's depending on how well you did, you will be able to requisition more powerful vessels because you've proved that you are capable of handling combat, and you could probably do better with a better ship. But I didn't really get much into the campaign because I was simply having too much fun with the skirmish mode. And it even had multiplayer, which I never actually played because I don't think the demo had it. Also, who would I play it with? And when I made a show about the full version of the first game, it wasn't really available for sale anywhere, so I didn't actually have with whom to play it. I didn't really delve too deeply into getting the multiplayer working back then. But since then, the game is again available for purchase on GOG and Steam, and it does not work on Windows 10. I was gonna buy it and sell like a big announcement. Does not work on Windows 10. Do not bother. And judging from the reviews, it's kind of a shame that it doesn't work on Windows 10 because it seems like a lot of people actually want it to work on Windows 10 so they can play it. There were in total 3 Starfleet Command games, and most of my experience with them is relegated to the first game and to the demo of the second one. And it's important to note that the first one was made by Interplay, like Interplay in its glory days, like the proper OG Interplay that brought us Planescape Torment. They made this, and they published the second one. The third one was made by the same studio that made the second one, a studio called Tal'Dren, which, surprise, was shut down after completing Starfleet Command 3 for Activision. A bunch of them went to work for Obsidian, so I think they were okay. But since then, we haven't gotten like a proper, good, high quality, lots of options included space ship tactical combat game in real time like this one. Again, the closest we've got was Star Trek Online, and that didn't really improve upon it. Didn't take the next step. Because although I'm praising it, there is one very essential flaw in Starfleet Command, and it's a flaw that you may know quite well if you're a Star Trek fan. It's one of the key plot points of Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan. Everyone in the game exhibits two-dimensional thinking. I would have put the clip with Spock here, but copyright claim, so no. The game looks 3D, it has 3D graphics, 3D ships, it's 2D. It is an edition of a board game, so okay, I guess, yeah, that makes sense for it to be 2D, but it is firmly 2D. Ships can go one over the other, but you can never attack at an angle. You can never attack from above or below. There is no shielding above or below you. Everything is around you. And in Star Trek Online, you can go above and below people, though you cannot point really your ship all the way downwards or upwards. You cannot flip it because most game engines are not made to let you flip the character. And in that game, it's even more blatant that it needed an extra layer, like a 3D layer, to the tactics, which it doesn't have. But still, in terms of 2D tactics, it's a superb game. It's an amazing game. And I think I'm running out of video footage, so I'm probably going to end this here. If you want to try Starfleet Command, well, I hope you don't have Windows 10 and that you've got around 8 euros and 9 euro cents handy, because you'll be able to purchase it on GOG and Steam and play it for all time. Again, unless you have Windows 10. Well, technically, it can work on Windows 10, but it may not be stable and you do have to do some fiddling with it, and honestly I don't have the time to fiddle with it. But if you do, go out there and enjoy it. Goodbye.